Welcome to Garden Wise Adventures. My name is Malie, and today is another beautiful day. It's the end of August. I live in Utah Zone 6/7, and a couple of weeks ago, I can't remember, maybe it was about a month ago, I did a video about Breba fig tasting. Now this is a Monday, and on the Saturday before this, just a couple of days ago, I did a class at my house where we went and pruned the figs and I gave away fig cuttings. Now the fig cuttings this time of year, whether or not they succeed in being able to root them is debatable, but we'll see what happens. I'm really excited to hear what happens with those. Now, as we go through this video, I'll discuss a little bit about why I prune figs the way I do. I'll link a video up above that shows how I did it, but I'm not going to be able to show you how I prune the figs right now because I did that on Saturday in a class, and I didn't film the class. But what I am going to show you is the results of that fig pruning. So let's go look at my figs, discuss why I prune them this time of year when it's the least optimum time to prune them, and show you what the results are. So we're going to start back here in my backyard in my food forest. And one of the first figs we're going to talk about is my Marseilles Black VS. Now this is a new fig tree. It's only 2 seasons old. We planted it not this last spring, but the spring before, and it was grown as a cutting over the winter. Now it's got a lot of gorgeous growth, and this is what it looked like before we pruned it. And now this is what it looks like after. Now what I did, I didn't prune a lot. I just went in and took out some of the excess growth. What I did leave are the little main crop figs. Now these figs, we'll see if they have time to ripen. I'm hoping that this pruning will help move them along. I don't know if it's a late ripening fig or what, but it seems like it's going to be a little later than some of my other figs. And we only have a few figs on this fig. Now the next one is my Negrone. I will show you a picture of what it looked like before. Let me back up so you can see more of what it looks like now. I took quite a bit of it out. So I kind of like to explain why I take so much out of my figs. Now the first thing I am trying to accomplish is I need to get them the size where I can cover them over the winter. Now, I've explained this in many videos in the past, but here in Utah, we have very unpredictable weather, like a lot of places. But the date of our first frost is around October 15th. But anywhere between the end of September and the end of October, we can go from 70-degree weather all the way down to 18 degrees. I think the coldest I've seen it get was 18 degrees, and that was at the end of September. And it'll go from like 70 degrees down to that 18 and then pop back up to 70 degrees. Now, what that's going to do to these fig trees is it's going to kill the branches, and it'll probably, very highly likely, kill the fig tree to the ground. And it just depends on how deep the freeze is, how long it lasts, and the shape of the tree before it freezes. But I don't want to risk losing all the branches because I want Breba crops next year. Now most of these figs that I have are hardy figs, and they should grow back from the roots if they're killed to the ground. But that means that we're going to have to wait later into the year to get the main crop, and it's going to take away all chance of the Breba crop. Now the Breba crop are figs that are produced on the old wood. All the figs that are here right now were produced on new wood. So this tree is producing pretty well. We got quite a few figs, and I'm hoping that opening up the tree, besides the fact of making it so that I can fit it under a winter covering, and I'll link a video above that shows you how I winter cover my figs, but hopefully it helps ripen them a little quicker. Now Negrone figs, really cute. They're a little long and skinny, but they're absolutely delicious. Let's go and show you my Ronde Bordeaux. So this is Negrone, or another name for it is Violette de Bordeaux. Let's show you the Ronde Bordeaux. Now I really heavily pruned this fig tree. I'll show you what it looked like before. It had a huge amount of growth, but for some reason this year it had very few figs. Now Ronde Bordeaux is supposed to be the earliest producing fig out there. It's a hardy fig, and when I say hardy, like I said, anything below 20 degrees are going to kill the branches to the ground. So when I say hardy, it means that they will likely grow back again from the roots. But I was assuming this was my latest ripening fig until I did the heavy pruning this year. Let's go look and see what's happening. I don't know if you can tell because of the lighting, But this is an almost ripe fig. I've already harvested 2 ripe figs off of this tree. We've got another one right here that's starting to ripen. When it's in the sunlight, you can see the color. It's absolutely a gorgeous color. We've got another one up here, but it looks like this is going to be my earliest ripening fig, but it needed its vigor cut back. Another thing that I did is I took off all of the new figs. Anything that looked like it had been produced after the end of July, I took off. Those figs are not going to have time to ripen. They don't have time to ripen on any of my fig trees. And so I took them off so that they could put all of the energy into ripening the figs that are already here. And I think that actually helped. Now this is another new little fig tree. This one was also planted the same time as the Marseilles Black VS, so it's been in the ground about a year and a half. And we only have a couple of little figs on it, which here in Utah, year 2, that's kind of to be expected. Is just a few figs. They don't really take off until about year 4. This is another little fig tree. This one has been a blessing and a happy surprise. I'll show you what this one looked like before I pruned it. And we've got quite a few little figs on here. This one actually gave me a really decent sized Breba crop. I got about 5 Breba figs off of this, and they were huge and they were delicious. So I'm really, really looking forward to this one maturing. So this one is also another 2-year-old fig. And I pruned it back a little bit, but not too heavily. My 2-year-old fig trees, my only goal is to be able to get them to fit under the covering. Now, the sunlight is pretty bad, but this is a fig tree that's in my front yard. I'll show you what it looked like before I pruned it. But this is what it looks like after I pruned it. And I've already harvested 2 figs off of it. We've got a couple more here ripening. And I think this one's a brown turkey. This is a gift, so I'm not exactly sure, but it's an older fig that's been grown here in Utah for decades. So I think that it has to be brown turkey. I don't think there were many other figs being sold, sold years ago. But it is ripening early. This is my second fastest to ripen, and it is my most prolific fig. This one, I think, is 4 years old. Yeah, I think this one is 4 years old. The Ronde Bordeaux is 3 or 4 years old, and the rest of them are 2 years old. So you can see how much more productive and vigorous these figs get as they age here in Utah. So I'm excited to see how these do as they age. Now, this tree right here, the parent tree the cutting was taken from, they said that that tree was never covered, and it always either came back or wasn't killed back in the winter and produced figs heavily. So I don't know if I'm going to do that this year, because I think that if I'm going to leave a tree uncovered, I'm going to leave it unpruned before the winter hits and see how it goes. I will probably prune it a little bit to help enhance ripening, but I don't think I'll prune it as heavy as I've pruned these other figs. Now, this is a 2-year-old Black Mission. It did not fruit this year. It did fruit a little bit last year, and it was delicious. And next to it was a very heavily pruned Chicago Hardy. Now, this tree is very, very vigorous in its growth. It has a lot of fruit on it. It's been producing a ton of fruit lately, but it is later ripening than the brown turkey. This usually starts ripening mid-September, I think. Now, I'm thinking with this tree, what I might need to do is leave it uncovered next year along with the brown turkey. And part of the reason for that is to see how many of these large branches can die back. Now, I'll probably need to prune it a bit so that we can get the figs to ripen, but not prune it near as heavy as we've done this year. And then just see how much of it dies back over the winter. Now, fig trees here, left completely to their own devices, do not go dormant till about November. That's when most of the other trees here go dormant. But like I said, we can hit that 18 degrees by the end of September. So I cover my trees by the end of September, and I cover them in a manner where I can leave the tops open so that they can go dormant. But if we're going to hit those extremely cold nights, I can cover the top so we don't have a lot of dieback. That way I can get the Breba crops. And then these trees are left covered until the end of May, because in May we can actually end up getting deep freezes down to 18 degrees again near the mid to the end of May. And that would also kill back any new growth. From what I have seen, fig trees that are left to their own devices and are uncovered don't start sprouting from the base until around June, and that's after all of the freezes happen. So we're going to have to just see what happens with this, see if we can kill back any of these branches. I don't want to cut them out because, you know, all of that explanation was just to get to the point to talk about how I prune my trees while they're still actively growing, and I would end up needing to prune out a good amount of figs if I were going to be removing these large branches. So it's a conundrum here in Utah. What I've been doing so far works, but we're just going to keep experimenting and trying and see what happens. Now, as I said, this is a later ripening fig tree. I'm not seeing any ripen yet. We did get a couple of breba crops off of it. But we did have a large storm come through that blew those breba crops off. So this is the size that the figs are right now. Now, this is a lot of work to go through to be able to get figs here in Utah, but I love figs so much it's worth it to me. Plus, it's a way to experiment and see what we can do to be able to get figs. What is necessary to be able to get the most amount of figs? So I'm going to the extreme right now, seeing what we can accomplish, and then I think I'll take tree after tree, year after year, maybe take cuttings off the ones that I'm worried about the most, just in case it doesn't work out at all and we lose the tree, and then just see how little work we can go through and still get figs. Now, I would love to hear your experiences growing figs in cooler climates and what you need to do. Now, obviously, I know you can grow figs in pots, but I want to know what you need to do to be able to put figs in ground in cooler areas and still get figs. So hopefully this video has been helpful for you. If it has been helpful, I hope you like, subscribe, share it with your friends, and go have a wonderful garden adventure.